The most controversial RC car of the year is back, but this time it's been updated. This is the MJX 10208 version 2, which now has some much needed upgrades over the version 1. So why was the version 1 so controversial? Soon after sending out the samples, MJX emailed all the creators and basically said the truck does have some shortcomings. Now on the email, the only thing that was really mentioned was the shock travel, and I didn't really see this as a reason not to review this truck. Now I didn't straight up refuse to review this truck just because it wasn't perfect. I was still interested to see how the version 1 would actually perform, and I really wasn't that fussed about the ground clearance issue because that is something that's easily solved. In my opinion, I think it was blown way out of proportion, although I do get what people say, why send an unfinished product? But in my eyes it was a finished product, it just needed a few changes. That may be difficult to understand, but I don't think it is, because lots of times we see version 1s released and then we very quickly see upgraded versions. So I wasn't going to punish MJX for something like this. So what's been changed on the new version, the version 2 that you see on the right here, well actually quite a bit, and if you look at the old version, the version 1 on the left, you can see that the new version is quite a bit wider, and if I show you this angle it might give you a slightly better idea as to how much wider this truck actually is. Now one of the most common issues on the version 1 was the body. It liked to keep popping off, and it doesn't look like they've made any changes to the locking mechanism. No, I think this thing is pretty much exactly the same. Some people have said the best solution is just to tighten up those 4 screws that you see there. I think I would have liked to have seen a more permanent fix, maybe like a little lock which would actually keep that little latch closed. So that's a little bit disappointing. Maybe we'll see that in the version 3. Another issue on the version 1 was the shock travel. Well, there wasn't really much, but on this it looks like we have got way more. Now we've seen videos on the version 2 already, and most channels have already covered it, but what they've done is actually make a change to the shock towers. So that is the version 1, and this is the version 2. So this time they're a little bit lower. I'll show you the rear as well. That's the version 1 and the version 2. And now it does look like you get way more ground clearance. The version 1 kind of felt like you were driving a truggy. It didn't really feel like a monster truck, but I think on the version 2, this is going to make a massive difference. They haven't made any changes to the tyres. They're exactly the same. Now, if you look at the links on the version 1 and then on the version 2, you can see they're a little bit chunkier as well. Taking a closer look underneath, things do look slightly different under here as well. Of course, we have the longer arms, and on the rear, everything on the front end pretty much looks exactly the same, but that's not the story on the rear. They've got rid of this and they've replaced it with this, which looks way stronger. These longer Velcro straps are a much needed upgrade. They've also made the motor mount a little bit stronger, and it's now secured to the chassis using 5 screws. So it certainly looks like MJX have made some changes in the right places. The fact that this is a little bit wider is definitely going to help when it comes to handling. I did feel last time it was lacking in the handling department, but I'm hoping that now feels a lot better. I still think there should have been a change when it comes to how the body is actually mounted. I think a little latch to actually lock the mechanism in place would have been a better option. I know some people have said on other channels you can just tighten up the screws, and yes, this will work to a certain extent, but I would have liked to have seen a more permanent fix. But look, it certainly looks like MJX are going in the right direction. Okay, it is questionable how they actually dealt with this. Maybe they should have just waited, done a little bit more quality control, and then just released the version 2. But to be honest, like I said earlier in the video, I think the original version was actually pretty good as well, and loads of people done their own modifications to make it even better, and that was still a brilliant truck. Now if you're happy to convert the version 1 to the version 2 yourself, seriousrc.co.uk are actually selling the truck for £184. Using my code beyondRC, you will be able to get £15 off the price. That brings it down to around £184, and better still, you will be able to get a free version 2 upgrade kit. The only thing is you do have to fit it yourself. It may seem like a very intensive process, but it's really not, and what you're going to have is a version 2 4S truck for under £200. These guys are also happy to ship worldwide, so if you don't want to wait for the version 2 and you want one now and you're happy to do the conversion process yourself, definitely go and check them out. I will leave a link down below. So if you missed the original speed run that I did on the version 1, here's a quick clip of how quick the truck will actually go. There's no point speed testing it again because essentially it's exactly the same truck all they've done is make some changes to the chassis. It's still going to be exactly the same when it comes to speed. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the speed test and I'll catch you shortly. That surprised me actually. I wasn't expecting it to be as stable as this, but we'll see what it's like on 4S. Full throttle again. Now the Omni Terminator, the carbon brush, this one did 25 miles per hour out the box on 2S, and I think it did around 38 on 3S. Not bad speeds. Let's see what we can get on 3S. Let's bring it back and find out. What do we think? Is this going to be more than 30 miles per hour? I think it is. I think it's going to be more. So let's hit stop and read. 34 miles per hour right out the box on 3S. So 34 out the box on 3S, stock gearing. That's a very respectable speed. Right, so let's do the 4S test. Let's start the GPS. Now 4S is really going to wake this beast up. That's full throttle. That is quick. And it's still stable. This has really surprised me actually. Full throttle. That's full throttle again. Oh, I'm starting to worry for a lot of brands now. Team Associated, Raffall, all of those popular brands out there. I would be incredibly worried because what we have here might be the new best budget basher that you can buy in the entire world. It's certainly looking that way. Full throttle again. Right, let's bring it back. Let's see how it's done. Are we going to see 50 plus, which if we do is an incredible speed. I actually think we're going to see mid 40s. So let's hit stop and read. 47 miles per hour out the box, stock gearing on 4S. So very impressive speeds on 4S. Now we have to remember this is a budget 4S truck, and to reach speeds up to 50 miles per hour, well, that's actually very impressive. When you look at some of the other options out there, especially from the bigger brands, there really isn't anything that's going to compare to this truck. MJX have done a very good job with this one. So just like with the original version 1, you can actually use a Bluetooth app to go in and make some changes to the ESC. Now as you can see here, I have connected to the ESC and you can see some stats on the screen there, like your ESC voltage and your ESC temperature. In my opinion, this is a real game changer because it's not quite as simple when it comes to some of the other brands out there. Being able to go in and make changes to the settings very easily just through a Bluetooth app is actually something I really like. Now we're going to give the 10208 version 2 a very quick off-road test just to see if it feels any different when it comes to handling. Of course, speed wise it's going to be exactly the same because they have made changes to the chassis, but what I really want to see is how it actually handles. Before we do that, if you want to support the channel and have a chance at winning a brand new RC car, head over to Raffall after watching this video. There's a really cool Team Associated on there at the moment. It's definitely worth checking out. So let's see how this version 2 performs then. Now this is the same location that I tested the version 1, and I did notice that ground clearance was a real issue back then, whereas now everything feels so much nicer. This thing is a beast, just like the version 1. I don't know why so many people made a fuss about the version 1, because I think a lot of people forgot it was the first time that a budget brand was giving us a really good, powerful 1/10 scale truck for a fraction of the price of the bigger brands. Of course, there was going to be some very minor issues and teething problems, which is why I went easy on MJX the first time, because I do understand that it's not an easy thing to do, especially going up against some of the biggest brands out there. This thing is so cool. Yeah, you can definitely tell this handles so much better now, and that is of course thanks to it being wider. It definitely needed to be wider. It was just a little bit too narrow. Well done, MJX. Yet again, you have done a great job with this one. I like this truck a lot. Thanks to this truck having a centre diff, you know, it's so hard to flip. And compared to something like a 3S Granite, that thing would be spending so much time on its roof. But this, you can throw it around and it just keeps going. An absolute animal. So there we go, the MJX 10208 version 2, one of the most controversial RC trucks of the year, and while this thing is even more of a beast, the changes MJX have made to this chassis has just made it even better. I seriously love this thing. Not only is it really good value, but it's also incredibly quick, and it handles so much better now they've fitted all of these upgrades. And yes, they could have waited a little bit longer and done a bit more quality control, and maybe then they would have noticed that actually this thing needed a few changes. Look, it happens. I'm not going to punish them for it because I still like the version 1. I still think that was a brilliant truck. Yes, of course the version 2 is even better because now it's slightly more refined and slightly better at doing what it's built to do. MJX have done a great job with this, and if you're looking to get into the hobby and you want something a little bit bigger but still a very good price, I think this is definitely going to be a good option. And if you're in the UK, well, you're in luck because you're going to be able to get parts for this within a couple of days because Serious RC have all of the spares. And comparing this to something else from a big name brand, well, there really isn't anything else in this price range. Okay, so it may not be the easiest thing to work on, some may even say it's not great to look at, although I think it is a very good looking truck. Compared to something like the MT10, I think that does look slightly better. But the MT10 sadly is far too expensive for a lot of people. Something like this definitely ticks a lot of boxes. Yes, this is a brilliant truck. MJX have done a great job once again, and I really love it. Let me know in the comments section what you make of the 10208 version 2. Did you go out and buy a version 1? Did you make any changes to the version 1? Or were you waiting for the version 2? Let me know in the comments section down below, and don't forget, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Cheers for watching, see you on the next one, take care. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more from MJX here on my channel, click one of these videos now.